I didn't want to make this video, and actually I said I wasn't going to make this video, but this is actually not exactly about the same thing, but it is, but it isn't. There's been a whole new slew of videos about this chicken feed conspiracy thing on the other side of it. And you realize when this started, it was like a couple months ago, right? And now here we are, getting toward the end of February. Spring is coming. My daffodils are in bloom. It's going to be 70 degrees today. I mean, this is unusually warm weather for the mountains where I am for this time of year, true. But we've been having a lot of unusually warm spells this year. But this is spring, and you realize that spring actually, the days begin to ramp up longer, starting in December. And, you know, my chickens slowed down last year. Even the youngsters, they won't even be 2 until April. But even the youngsters last fall, they slowed down a good bit. I have large fowl Easter eggers. Now this is very windy out here, so I'm gonna have to denoise it for wind if I can, and my hair may blow everywhere, you know, because I'm trying to stay as close to the house as I can to not stay out of the wind. In fact, I may have to move this over just a little bit. But they began to ramp up in December, and that included my older ones. Now, all my very, very old ones have gone. Now, I guess somebody would say some chickens who are approaching 8 years old or quite old. Well, I'm talking 11, 12, 13, and 14 is what I mean by really old. And yes, I had several of those. But they started ramping up, and that includes my old ones, the ones that were still laying at all. And they began to ramp up. Well, for the last month or so, my chickens have been laying like gangbusters. I mean, I have, let's see, I have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I have about 17 hens that lay, but of those, 7 of them are 5 to 8 years old. So you barely can even count them. You don't really expect them to continually lay. You really don't really expect the 8-year-olds to lay at all, but they are, and they have been for months. These are not hatchery birds, these are heritage laying birds. They've been laying like gangbusters. I mean, I get 8 to a dozen eggs a day, usually about 9 or 10 eggs a day. But I've been getting a lot of eggs for the number of chickens I have who are of prime laying age. And yeah, it went down and it increased. You know what I did to make it increase? Now, I want you to get really close and listen to me, and I'll tell you what I did to make them start laying again. Nothing. I didn't change their feed. I knew it would happen. I knew it was going to happen. And I waited for longer days. Not necessarily warmer, just longer. I currently have about 25 chickens. I've had as many as 55 chickens. And at that time, they were all large fowl. 25 plus the 5 chicks, which I don't know how many I'll end up keeping because I can't keep the males of that particular group. I keep a rest in peace list. Those are, as chickens die, I put them on the list. I don't put the date they died, but I started it when I had my original flock. Back starting in January 2005 was when I got my first chickens. I've been a member of BackyardChickens.com since 2004. And I started my rest in peace list when the first hen died at 2 years old of egg yolk peritonitis. Suddenly, without warning. Unless you call laying in the shade on a cold day and being a little lethargic a warning. So I have a rest in peace list. And over the last 18 plus years, my rest in peace list, which does not include birds that were born here but didn't die here, that went somewhere else with Lady Hawk or with someone else, or sold, whatever, doesn't include those. The ones that actually were raised here and died here There are 85 birds. That's more than most of these people have ever owned in the first place. 85 over the last 18 years. Now, they're, natural causes, reproductive malfunctions, internal injuries from roosters fighting each other, or my Isaac trying to kill his sons and giving them internal injuries or actually killing them outright, that kind of thing. But in the 18 years, I've raised literally hundreds to maturity and beyond. And that means to 3 years old. Now, Brahmas don't even become mature, males don't even become mature for almost 2 years. And the hens don't become fully mature till after a year old, really. And then they still don't reach their full size until later. And beyond the hundreds of birds that have come through here that I've raised, there's been hatchery stock. Not as many of those, obviously, because they are substandard. Hatchery stock, breeder quality, rare breeds, heritage line breeds. My Marvin Stuckel Bar Plymouth Rocks were from what they call a 50-year pure line. He has line bred those birds for over 50 years. I'm not sure if Marvin is still alive now. This has been a while. I still have one pure Marvin Stuckel Barred Rock, and that is Drusilla, who is crippled, and she's not going to be with us much longer. She's 11 years old. But because this is like a new slew of things coming out, I felt like I needed to address this. I said I wasn't going to address the feed stopping my chickens laying stuff, and that's not what this is. But this is the aftermath of this that I'm seeing now that bothers me a great deal. And there's a lot of new videos claiming that, after months of agonizing over their non-laying or slow-laying hens, suddenly they're laying. What did we do? What did we do to cause them to start laying again? And I know for a fact that almost all of these people that are claiming this, are newbies. And to me, a newbie is who's had chickens 3 years or less. The reason is, well, I'll just get into that in a minute. But I'll tell you what they did that caused those chickens to start laying again. And it applies to all of those people. I know what they did. Nothing. Compared to a month ago when the main hysteria was going on, the days are much longer. Much longer. Much. I'm letting my chickens be able to stay outside longer. The sun doesn't go down over the mountains behind the mountain until, like 5:30 in the afternoon now. It was before 5, because I'm in the shadow of a mountain that's about 400 feet higher than me, and when that goes down behind the mountain, it's dark. It's just dark. Chickens can't be out anywhere close to that time. They're staying out much longer. It's very warm. But they've been laying like crazy since December, and that's from ages less than 2 years, which is prime laying age, and those are all hatchery stock, to 5 to 8 years of age. And I mean, 4 of those hens, one is 5, one is 6, 2 are 8, and they are all laying several eggs a week, which is miraculous to some people. But I'll tell you what you did. Even though, no matter what you're claiming, no matter what these people are claiming, and I don't know what all, I'm not necessarily singling out any one person, but there's a lot of these new videos popping up, and I'm going, are you kidding me? My channel's about education, so I felt like I really had to address this. Because it's doing a disservice to new chicken owners to spread misinformation like that. Nothing you did, feeding them loaf bread or beans or any kind of magical concoction that you've come up with, not even changing to a different brand of feed, even though, yes, some feeds are better than others. That's true. Some are better than others. But that's always been the case. When your chickens were laying really good, you were feeding them sucky feed. And when they stopped laying, you were feeding them the same sucky feed. So what did you think the feed stopped? Seriously. But people who've had chickens less than 3 years, they are, as my video said, you need to be knowledgeable about the animal that you are raising. But anybody can make a video on YouTube and claim anything. And just because somebody has these birds, or has a goat, or has a horse, or has a cow, doesn't mean the information that they are giving is accurate. I don't care what they believe. This is not about belief. Is this a religion? Well, fermented feed is a religion, I can tell you that. Because I've had them come after me with pitchforks and flaming torches because I said there's verifiable evidence that that is an unnatural and even dangerous food for chickens. Oh no, my God, no, you can't. This person over here said so-and-so, and this person over here, and they do this. And please look at my video about, the fermented feed fed, this breeder cries foul, and I tell you about a story where there was lab generated evidence that these birds died from that feed. If you don't want to listen to that, if you want to breed it, you want to buy into the fads and hysteria, I see that in a lot of areas of life. I see it all the time in so-called Christian circles. Bite into the new fads, the new and shiny thing comes along, and somebody has to jump on that bandwagon. Bandwagons are very slippery and they can be really dangerous. They're not nice things to be on. And I'm betting some of these people, when they experience the natural slowdown of their laying hens, when they hit 2.5 to 3 years old, and some slow down before that, but chickens do lay. They'll lay through their first winter, and all of a sudden the next winter they stop, they slow down way down, or they actually stop and they go, "Oh my God, what happened?" Natural process is what happened. 18 years plus experience, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of birds of all types, from hatcheries, from breeders. Come on. And then they said, I'm betting some of these people said, "Oh, I've got to try the fermented feed. Maybe that'll help." Might kill them. Yeah, it might kill them. And I know what I'm talking about there too. Oh, but see, they don't want to believe that. It's more fun to do all this labor-intensive stuff and slop their chickens like they're slopping hogs. I never understood what possessed somebody to get a bunch of layer crumble, cover it with water, put a top on it, and let it sit and ferment and start to smell bad. Fermentation is one hair's breadth away from mold. Chickens, avian species, have a crop digestive system. Unlike goats, horses, cows, they don't have the same type of digestion that all these other animals do. Mammals, they don't have the same digestion. They can't handle mold. It will kill them. It will cause crop issues at the very least. But I'm sure some people jumped on that bandwagon because they were on the other bandwagon, and they like bandwagons. A friend of mine told me that she heard somebody say, and I haven't heard this because honestly I've seen the titles, I've been avoiding listening to most of these videos because it just makes me so angry that they're spreading all this misinformation. All the effort I put into putting out good information, and they want to pretend that they know what they're talking about and spread this misinformation. But a friend told me, somebody said that this person had heard a lot of the big names on YouTube contradicting the feed conspiracy, that the feed was causing chickens to stop laying. But this person chose not to believe the voices of experience. Chose to believe hysteria, chose to believe other people who didn't know what they're talking about, chose to believe. And don't tell me that feed companies are not profiting off of this stuff, because they are some of these companies are saying, well, our feed has this, this, and this, and that feed doesn't, and that feed will stop that, but our feed's better. Are you telling me that they're not going to do that? Of course they are. Of course they are. Big agribiz? This is big agribiz, people. And I know that's probably why you automatically believe this. When somebody with their second year chickens went, oh my God, they stopped laying. Oh my God, it must be the feed. I know in their mind was big agribusiness trying to stop us from having our own chickens. You know what? They don't have to do that. The government can come down and say, hey, no backyard flocks. It's illegal. It's dangerous. They'll make up some lie to protect us. Of course, that's how they get everything passed, is for our own safety. You know this. I mean, if you don't know this, you've been hiding under a rock your whole life. The first year they'll lay through the winter. They'll lay through anything. They're young, their age. The second year, they may slow down, but they may not slow down enough for you to really notice a huge change, but they will slow down. A little bit. Or a lot, depending on the bird. The third year, they're definitely you're going to see a big change in the third year. Now, most of these people will have hatchery stock. However, there'll be some with breeder stock. Do you know that breeder stock does not lay as heavily after the second year as hatchery stock generally does, because they're bred for longevity? How else would I have 14-year-old hens who have been laying up until they were 12 and 13? 8, 9, and 10-year-old hens still producing eggs. Not many hatchery birds will do that. Some may. There may be some breeds that you get from a hatchery, some that are not some of the most common egg producers, some of that haven't been overbred, inbred, whatever you want to call it. Now, line breeding, people think that's inbreeding, and it's akin to that, but it's done in a very meticulous way. So as to breed out bad traits and breed in the good traits, by choosing your breeders wisely. It's another subject entirely. But, you have to address the belief of fads in keeping chickens. And this is mainly what I want to do. People, in the end, choose what they want to believe. I'm not sure why people want to believe the most unverifiable things. And they can't verify any of this. They can't verify, someone's going to do testing in his backyard lab or whatever. I know somebody said it's not a backyard lab. I don't care. I don't care. That still, what is in the feed does not prove that stopped your chickens from laying. There is association and causation. Oh, I fed them these beans and then they started laying. That's what we did, and look what happened. That is an association. That's not a causation. That means the days were getting longer, and suddenly you said, I'll feed them beans. And you did, and they were laying like crazy, and you go, the beans caused it. No, they didn't. That was associated with the same time frame. It was the longer days. It was the change in season that caused it. Remember, 18 plus years, hundreds of birds, a lot of different breeds from a lot of different sources, bred them through maturity. I've rarely sold hens that were still laying. I had a couple of troublemakers I sold to somebody who had bought a lot of my birds, 3 years old. 2 barred rock hens I did sell together as a layer for somebody else. I rarely do that because usually they born here, they die here unless it's a rooster, extra rooster. But people, I run into the same thing in the Bible realm. People will not adhere to sound doctrine. Now, I realize it's not the same seriousness. Just chicken feed, not world peace, and not your eternal soul. I get that. But I see the same kind of behavior. People want to grab onto the new and shiny in following fads. And they, in spite of evidence right in front of them, or the voice of someone who has good biblical knowledge an unwavering faith, and that is all they go by. They don't listen to this guy and this guy and this guy and this denomination. They don't have any denominational glasses they're wearing, but they adhere to the scripture, and then some of the things that they teach, people go, oh, I just can't hear that. I just don't believe that. Do you know what? God don't care what you believe. It's what you know that he said. You adhere to what he said. So, I'm not saying that I am the God of chicken keeping. That is not what I'm saying. Please don't go there. I'm sure somebody will misinterpret that. They always do. But it's the same type behavior. You prefer to buy into the hysteria and the false doctrine instead of good, sound doctrine. What is proven, what works, the facts, things that you know, or you should know. Know the animal you're keeping. The statement that, there's a lot of people with a lot of the big names, and now big names don't mean that they have a lot of experience, okay? I know somebody who's had a channel for years, and the advice I see on there is just horrifying to me. I see somebody who refuted this feed conspiracy, and I was with this person up until she said fermented feed, and I went, you need to research that some more yourself, because it's not, you're pushing something that could kill someone else's birds. Because the animal that you're raising has a crop digestive system, and it's not appropriate, and it can be dangerous. So who do you prefer to believe? Who do you believe? Who do you follow? Somebody once called me their chicken guru, and yet prefers to believe the hysteria. I don't understand that. I don't care what you think happened in your flock. If you're blaming it on something, you just choose to believe this, you're believing a lie. So, you know what? My secret to getting chickens laying again? I'll wait till the days get longer. Add some more. And the thing is, some of these people who have, the young flocks, next year, what's their excuse going to be next year when they've done all the things and they've changed everything up and their flock is older and they're slowing down more? What are they going to blame then? You know what? It's the natural cycle of laying hens, but they're going to blame something else. Unless they've added more to their more younger stock, who are now taking up the slack for the older ones, and they don't notice a slowdown. See, unless you count every egg from every hen, you don't notice that slowdown. That's why people get new stock. That's why they refresh their stock. Why do you think commercial flocks kill their birds every 2 years or a year and a half? Because they slowed down. It's not just because they want to get rid of something. It would be great if chickens laid consistently for years, it would behoove the commercial people to keep the same chickens instead of getting new stock and killing the old. But they don't. And there's a very good reason for that. And it makes perfect sense. If you're willing to calm down and really learn about the animal you are raising, the animal that has a crop digestive system, has a gizzard, has the whole thing, it's just amazing to me that people just refuse to adhere to sound chicken doctrine. Let's just put it that way. So, if you're thinking about getting birds or you have new birds, please don't jump on every fad that comes along, because there's always something new. People get bored with the same old, and they got to concoct something new. And same rule applies on this video that applies to all other videos. You don't come on here and lecture me. You don't debate me. You don't call me names. You don't call any of my subscribers names. You don't do any of that. Just think about what I said, and think about who you're taking your advice and your information from, and what their actual experience is. The only way giving a chicken beans or mashed potatoes or something is going to start them laying is if you've been starving to death before and they weren't laying anything. because they didn't get any food. If they are skinny and ratty and lice infested and they weren't getting any food at all, and you started feeding them, yeah, that would change something. Of course it would. Duh. Do I have to say duh 100 times? Now, I know I come across as a smart aleck, but this is a channel for education, and chickens are my specialty. You ask the owner of BYC. You ask the hundreds of people who've been members of there as long or almost as long as I have. You ask the veterinarians who are chicken owners and keepers, who verify my information and clap and give me thumbs up on things that I post when somebody asks for my advice. Now, you know, you can believe whatever you want to believe. You can take my advice or you can not take my advice. It doesn't matter. But there are consequences to the little world that you're making for yourself, because you're setting yourself up for real disappointment. If you haven't added any new stock, you may not get many eggs next year. Next September to December, you may not get any eggs, or not very many. Because these are animals, not machines. These are not vending machines, and their overall health has a lot more to do with their egg laying than just how many eggs it puts in your carton. So, there's my very stern lecture for today. But yeah, I can guarantee you that all these things that they're saying they did that started this laying back up, not one of them did it. Not one of them. Unless they actually were starving their birds and finally fed them. In that case, please don't. Please give them to somebody else who'll take care of them. So, another long video. Sorry about that. I got to go check on my chickens, who are laying like crazy right now. The Easter eggers, the Bantam Cochins, the Brahmas, the Barred Plymouth Rocks, all of them laying big time. Got a lot of cartons. My son's going to have to come up here and get some eggs. See y'all later. So just remember, be polite, be respectful, be an adult here. Bye.